This is the entire story that Poppy Playtime has to offer so far, covering everything from the beginning of chapter 1 all the way to the very end of chapter 4 so you can know exactly what happened. Feel free to leave this video in the background while you do schoolwork, before you go to bed, or while you just go about your daily life. But with all that being said, let's dive into the entire story of Poppy Playtime chapters 1 through 4. It all starts with a letter. You're an ex-employee of Playtime Co., a company that was once the king of the toy industry. But a decade ago, every single worker inside the factory mysteriously vanished. No explanation, no leads, just gone. In 2005, you're pulled back into this nightmare when you receive a peculiar package, a VHS tape with an old Poppy Playtime commercial. But something's off. The tape's been tampered with, and alongside it is a strange letter. Its message: the employees are still here. What does it mean? Against your better judgment, you decide to return to the factory, where your story as the player truly begins. Arriving at Playtime Co.'s abandoned front doors, the factory already gives off an eerie vibe. Dust covers the walls, the air is thick with silence, and yet there's something extremely unsettling about how frozen in time everything looks. Has anyone like police gone through here? Is someone still alive? We don't exactly know yet. Our first step is entering the main entrance. It's here you find the first VHS tape, a recording of Leith Pierre, Playtime Co.'s head of innovation. Pierre's voice echoes through the room, warning potential trespassers about the factory's security system.
Hi, my name is Leith Pierre, and I'm the head of innovation here at the Playtime Co. toy factory. If you're seeing this, then you're trespassing. This facility is full of hidden motion triggers, which, once set off, will turn on the factory's emergency alarms and directly contact the authorities. And that's one of the more tame aspects of our security system. No spoilers.
But do you listen? Of course not. Instead, you unlock the security room, where you uncover one of Playtime Co.'s most revolutionary inventions, the grab pack. But this grab pack in particular doesn't have its right red hand, only the left blue one. So, you begin to enter the main lobby, a massive space dominated by a statue of Huggy Wuggy, the factory's beloved mascot. But something feels off. As you approach the locked door on the left, requiring your blue grab pack hand to open, the power suddenly cuts out, leaving you in darkness. But then, out of nowhere, a key appears in Huggy Wuggy's hand. That key, it leads you to the power room, where you must restore the factory's power using the grab pack to connect electrical circuits. But as you exit, there's an unmistakable sense that you're being watched. Huggy's statue is completely gone. At first, it feels like a prank or something like that. Maybe the employees really are still here, just playing tricks on you. But you press forward into the warehouse. The truth becomes harder to ignore. While scavenging for batteries to unlock the second grab pack hand, you catch your first glimpse of him, Huggy Wuggy. His massive frame briefly appears in the vents, watching you before disappearing into the shadows. You think to yourself, was that real? Is my mind playing tricks on me? With the batteries in hand, you finally retrieve the red grab pack hand. This opens a door to the conveyor system, propelling you deeper into the factory. As you navigate its mechanical maze, the tension builds. It's as if the factory itself is alive, guiding you towards something or someone. Eventually, you arrive at the Make a Friend area, a workshop once used to create toys on demand. But now, it's a hollow shell of its former self. Activating the machines requires you to solve yet another puzzle, rerouting power to bring the assembly line to life. Piece by piece, the machines produce a cat bead toy, which you need to open the exit gate labeled "Nobody leaves without a toy." It seems simple enough, but as you approach the gate, the nightmare finally begins. From the shadows, Huggy Wuggy emerges, but this isn't the lovable mascot from the commercials. This is a towering, monstrous version of him, with sharp teeth, elongated limbs, and an overwhelming presence that fills the entire hallway. And he's coming straight before you. The chase through the vents is nothing short of chaos. Every turn feels tighter, every sound louder. Huggy's footsteps echo behind you as his distorted figure looms closer. The factory transforms into a labyrinth of death, forcing you to think quickly and act faster. Finally, you reach the end of the line, a precarious set of catwalks suspended high above the factory floor. Huggy is relentless, breaking down barriers to reach you. But then you spot it, a crate hanging above him. With no time to spare, you topple the crate, sending it crashing down on Huggy. The impact sends him plummeting into the abyss below, clanking and slamming his body against those pipes as he fell down, leaving a chilling trail of dark red blood. With Huggy gone, you continue your journey along the catwalks, picking up a mysterious black VHS tape. Its recording offers only more questions than answers, revealing snippets of Playtime Co.'s shady practices.
Experiment 1006, the prototype. Today's events are no doubt in relation to him. We must forge onwards in the name of science, whether those who are beneath us understand it or not. End of...
Eventually, you reach a door with a massive poppy flower, just like the one from the commercial. Beyond it lies a room that feels out of place in the cold industrial factory. This space is designed like a child's bedroom, complete with wooden furniture and a locked glass case at its center. Inside the case, the Poppy Playtime doll, the very face of the company. You open the case, the lights flickered, and then just darkness. But right before the chapter ends, we hear Poppy's voice softly echo the words,
"You opened my case."
With Chapter 1, Poppy Playtime introduces us to a world where the line between nostalgia and horror blurs. What happened to the employees? Why is Huggy Wuggy alive? And why does he want to kill me? And who wrote the note? Couldn't be the doll, she was locked in the case. So where the employees must have done it. Who did it? I need to know who did it. But as we move into Chapter 2, these questions will only frustrate me more. But for now, one thing is clear. Playtime Co. is hiding something far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. With Poppy finally free, the story plunges deeper into the heart of Playtime Co., and things quickly spiral out of control. Chapter 2 expands the world, introduces new mechanics, and delivers one of the most unsettling villains in the series, Mommy Longlegs. But before we get to her, let's start with where Chapter 1 left off. After releasing Poppy from her glass case, the player wakes up disoriented in the Poppy room. The eerie, childlike decor feels out of place, but what's even more concerning is that Poppy is gone, nowhere to be found. The only way out is blocked, forcing the player to search for another exit. They find a hidden white door that leads to the larger industrial parts of the factory. Navigating through dimly lit hallways, the player eventually reaches Elliot Ludwig's office. It's here they find a ventilation shaft, and after crawling through, they're startled by Poppy herself. Scared the absolute doo-doo out of me when I played it the first time. She gives us a half-butt apology for the scare, and for the first time, she speaks directly to the player.
Sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I was just trying to get the power back on.
Poppy explains the situation. The factory is full of living toys that will stop at nothing to kill them, but she's determined to help them escape through the game station. Poppy begins guiding the player deeper into the factory. The player is left to fend for themselves, and as they enter the game station, Mommy Longlegs makes her first appearance in full view. She rips off the player's red grab pack hand and taunts them with a sinister offer. If they want to escape, they'll have to play 3 of her games. If they win, they live. If they lose, Mommy says she'll devour them. Actually, let her say it.
Obey the rules, or I'll tear you apart and eat your insides while you're still alive.
Before heading into the first game, the player stops by the molding room to craft a new upgrade for the grab pack, the Green Hand. This new addition allows them to store electricity and power distant nodes. With the upgrade complete, the first game begins. Musical Memory. Here, the player faces a twisted version of Simon Says. A series of buttons light up, and they have to press them in the correct sequence. Easy enough at first. Oh my goodness, this gets crazy. But as the game progresses, more buttons are added, symbols replace colors, and the speed intensifies. Overhead, Bunzo Bunny, a toy with a symbol and a deranged smile, hangs from the ceiling, slamming his instruments into your face if you make too many mistakes. The tension builds with every round, and the game eventually becomes straight up impossible to win. But just in time, an emergency stop button activates, sparing the player from Bunzo's literal Toy Story monkey looking symbols. I'm sorry, y'all, I just hate this guy. Mommy Longlegs, clearly irritated, reluctantly gives the player the first piece of the train code.
Oh, it broke. That's not fun. Look hard. Take it.
After leaving the game, the player hears unsettling sounds in the distance. Mommy killing Bunzo for failing to kill us. The next stop is Wackawuggy. Set in a dimly lit arena resembling a construction site, the player must fend off mini Huggies that crawl out of holes in the walls. Armed only with their grab pack, they must slap the mini Huggies before they reach them. What starts as a manageable task quickly becomes overwhelming as more and more mini Huggies appear. Their creepy mini Huggy Wuggy like noises echo through the room. The player barely makes it out alive, and Mommy, now visibly annoyed, hands over the second piece of the train code. However, her frustration gets the better of her. After the player leaves, the sounds of Mommy killing the mini Huggies can be heard in the background. The third and final game is called Statues, and it's the most harrowing challenge yet. Here, the player must navigate a maze while being pursued by PJ Pugapillar. The rules are simple: only move when the lights are off. If the lights turn on while the player is moving, PJ will kill you. The tension is suffocating as the player carefully times their movements, inching closer to the exit. But when they reach the end, they discover that the game has been rigged. There's no way out. Refusing to give up, the player shatters the glass observatory overlooking the maze, breaking the rules and escaping PJ's grasp. Mommy Longlegs at this point is crashing out. She accuses the player of cheating, her voice dripping with rage as she declares one
last game. It's called Hide and Seek. 10, 9.
The player is now hunted by Mommy Longlegs herself. Her demeanor has shifted completely. She's no longer playing any games, bro. Her body contorts into unnatural angles. Her voice switches between playful taunts and blood-curdling screams. And her relentless pursuit pushes the player to the brink. But this isn't exactly a chase. As said before, this is hide and seek. Mommy just appears out of nowhere and chases you until you're forced to hide. Thinking you're safe, you begin to try and open a grab pack door, but as soon as you try to open it, Mommy appears yet again. She's way down the hall behind you, but she is quickly gaining up on you, and the door is doing the exact opposite of what Mommy Longlegs is doing. But eventually, the door opens and you see a grinder, and in a desperate move, the player traps Mommy in its machinery. As the grinder pulls her in, Mommy lets out a bone-chilling scream, crying out in fear of what we now know as the prototype.
What have you done? You make me
But there's no time to breathe. A clawed hand emerges from the shadows, dragging Mommy's remains away. This is the prototype, a mysterious and malevolent force hinted at throughout the factory. With Mommy defeated, the player returns to the game station, where they finally free Poppy. Together, they board the train to escape the factory. But just as freedom seems within reach, Poppy changes the plan abruptly. She cryptically tells the player that they're too perfect to lose and that they can't leave just yet. She's seen the horrors of the factory firsthand and believes the player is the key to setting things right.
I was so scared she'd put me back in that case. But you saved me. You're perfect. Too perfect to lose. I'm sorry. I can't let you leave.
Before she can explain further, an alarm blares, cutting her off. The train speeds out of control, and the player frantically tries to stop it, but it is too late. The train derails, crashing deep into the bowels of the factory. As the player loses consciousness, they catch a glimpse of a sign, and the sign reads, "Play Care." Chapter 3 begins with the player being held by Catnap and getting thrown into a trash compactor. After escaping by jumping through the machinery and using the grab pack, the player makes their way through a series of maintenance tunnels. During this moment, a phone begins to ring in the distance. And this is odd. The factory's been abandoned for years, so why is there a phone ringing? You could assume that it's Poppy trying to regroup with us after the train crash, but answering the call, they meet Ali, a mysterious individual who communicates through the phone and promises to help guide them. Ali reveals that Playcare, an orphanage beneath the factory, was a central part of Playtime Co.'s dark experiments. With Ali's guidance, the player reaches the Dome, a grand entrance leading into Playcare.
When you look around at the world today, a smile is hope. A smile is love. A smile is understanding. And there is nothing more gratifying to my soul than being the reason for a child's smile. For what gives life its meaning if not a smile?
Here, a recording of Elliot Ludwig plays, which talks about why exactly he created Playcare. Ludwig believed that Playcare was a necessary solution to give orphans a sense of purpose, but the reality was far darker. Ali instructs the player to restore power to the factory by activating the gas production zone, the source of the ominous red smoke. But before they can proceed, they must first explore Playcare's most sinister areas. The player's first stop is Home Sweet Home, which is where the orphans stay at, but the air is thick with red smoke, forcing the player to venture in without proper protection. Inhaling the smoke sends them spiraling into a horrific hallucination. In this dreamlike state, the player wanders through endless, distorted hallways filled with eerie audio logs. One log recounts the discovery of a dead child on Ludwig's estate, casting a dark shadow over his intentions. Catnap lurks in the shadows, watching silently, and we supposedly get a call from Ali telling us to run where this happens.
You need to run.
The climax for all of this is the player being forced to watch a Welcome to Playtime VHS tape that starts as a cheerful employee video but quickly becomes corrupted. The tape addresses the player directly, calling out their return to the factory. A nightmarish version of Huggy Wuggy emerges from the screen, and the player wakes up just before being eaten. Back in the real world, the player finds a gas mask, allowing them them to safely navigate the red smoke. After activating Home Sweet Home's generator, they encounter Kissy Missy, who attempts to kill them but is stopped by Poppy. Poppy warns the player that escaping is impossible unless they destroy the prototype, who controls everything in the factory. The destination is the school, an abandoned educational area now haunted by Miss Delight, a former teacher turned monstrous experiment. Miss Delight is a chilling presence, speaking over the PA system as she warns the player about the dangers ahead.
Wait, I recognize you. Yes, I remember. You used to work here. How are you? Alive? Barb? Oh. Barb says you're looking for your co-workers. Catnap wouldn't like that you're here. You should leave. For your own safety.
The player attempts to restore the school's power, but Miss Delight sabotages their efforts and begins hunting them. Her mechanic makes it to where she can only move when you're not looking at her. If you want a full explanation on Miss Delight, make sure to check the video down in the description. As they make their way through classrooms and hallways, Miss Delight becomes more aggressive. In a final confrontation, the player lures her into a gate mechanism, which crushes and kills her. My favorite moment in the game. Let me get 2 replays. With the school's generator restored, the player gains the orange flare gun grab pack hand, which shoots small flare pellets that illuminate the area they're shot at. With this new grab pack hand, the player descends into Playcare's caverns. Here, they solve a series of puzzles while uncovering disturbing details behind Playtime Co's experiments. In the distance, they can find Catnap worshipping a shrine dedicated to the prototype. After seeing this, we eventually enter the playhouse, an unsettling area filled with hostile ruined critters. Armed with their new grab pack upgrade, the player fends off waves of these creatures. While exploring, they discover a cell containing Dog Day, a once loyal experiment who now serves as a prisoner of Catnap. Dog Day lets us know that it's too late to save him. We've entered uncharted territory and we need to get out of here as fast as possible. He also reveals the relationship that Catnap has with the prototype, which Ollie later echoes to us. Before Dog Day can say more though, the ruined critters infest his body, turning him into a monstrous puppet. The player escapes narrowly, leaving Dog Day's tortured screams behind. Ollie directs the player to the counselor's office, the final location needed to restore power. Here, they find a disturbing emergency VHS tape recorded on August 8th, 1995. The tape warns employees of a hostile force overtaking the factory, but is abruptly interrupted by a chilling message. Open the doors now. The hour of joy has arrived. As the player tries to process this, they're ambushed by Catnap, who smacks the wuggy out of them and forces them into another nightmare. In this twisted vision, they're confronted by shadowy children and rhetorical questions from Poppy, hinting at the incomprehensible horrors that Playtime Co. has hidden. The vision ends with the prototype reaching toward the player, but they wake up before anything else. Restoring the counselor's office's power, the player receives the final battery needed to activate the gas production zone. Returning to the gas production zone, the player is ambushed once again by Catnap, who fills the room with red smoke. The player flees into an elevator leading to a safe room where they must fend off Catnap's relentless attacks. But during this flee, we see Catnap from the red smoke's hallucinations distorts into this nasty, ghastly, white, skinny, disgusting, ill, somebody kill it please. Using the environment to their advantage, the player overcharges the green grab pack hand, electrocuting Catnap and setting him on fire. In his final moments, we see the prototype emerge from the ceiling. Catnap, upon noticing him, begins to offer himself. But during this moment, the prototype plunges his hand into Catnap's mouth, brutally killing him. Using this strike as leverage, he pulls Catnap up into the ceiling, back where he came. With Catnap defeated, the player powers the gas production zone and reunites with Poppy. Together, they watch a VHS tape showing the horrific truth of the Hour of Joy. The toys, under the prototype's orders, massacred the factory staff in a coordinated attack. Poppy reveals that she was thrown into her case shortly before the massacre, forced to listen as countless lives were lost. She vows to destroy the prototype for what he's done, believing it's the only way to end the factory's nightmare. The player and Poppy board an elevator to descend further into the factory, but just as it starts moving, Kissy is attacked by an unseen entity while trying to assist them. The player and Poppy are left defenseless as all they can hear are the screams of Kissy Missy above.
We need to be cautious. There's something... What? What's she doing? This is... No! No! We're coming! Just hold on! Come on, go faster! Kissy!
The chapter ends with the player stranded in the depths of Playtime Co., the prototype's influence growing stronger, and the promise of even darker secrets waiting below. Alright guys, this is future Poppy theory. This video has already been made, link in the description. Okay, bye. We get a split second of a hand emerging from something with goo completely covering it, foreshadowing what's to come. We then cut to some old looking footage of Christmas Day as the date labels December 25th, 1992, a little over 3 years before the Hour of Joy. The footage shows a mother recording her son opening his present, which turns out to be a Doughy the Dough Man figurine. The mom lets her son know that there's also a card in the box, which is a ticket inviting receivers to the Playtime Co. factory. The chapter begins right where we left off in chapter 3, descending down the lift with Poppy. Poppy lets us know that she won't leave Kissy Missy behind, and that we're gonna go on ahead while she goes back up to save her. She lets us know to be extremely careful down here, calling it hell. Stepping off the elevator, Poppy gives us one last objective: follow the red smoke and look out for a very specific someone. Currently inside of loading bay 1E, we must find a battery to open the door on the right. After doing so, we venture into caves 1C, parts of the underbelly of the factory. After swinging over a gap in this cave, we start to hear this in the distance. We squeeze our way through a rock gap and head to checkpoint 1A, which has a yellow door forced shut with some knotted rope. This is where we put our flare gun hand to use, as instructed by the purple VHS tape that we also find in this room. Burning the rope and journeying deeper into the factory, we find an area with thousands of toys, an area that looks very similar to a junkyard. Some toys dead, some toys alive, and few that are slowly meeting their fate. Once we get past most of the toy pile, we lay our eyes on this large building in front of us, across from where we just came from. Once we get close, the lights flashbang us and an alarm starts to go off, waking up the toys that are still alive in this heap of plastic and fur. We fend them off with our flare gun for a bit before finally making our way into this new building. We're informed by the game that this building not only houses the door that leads into the prison, but the door itself is locked, so we have to try and find another way into it. Over on the left side of the building is an opening into the prison, which we can get to by running up the piles of toys. Once we get through the cave section, still on our way to the prison, we get a call from none other than Ali, who sounds a bit off once we answer the phone. After solving the puzzle that allows us into one of the train cars, coming across an extremely disturbing and dead good kissy missy, the train starts and we start to make our way to the prison. But as we're waiting, the TV in the corner that's been off this entire time suddenly turns on. Immediately, we realize that this is Harley Sawyer, who grows skeptical at the sight of us. This skepticism quickly manifests into curiosity, with Sawyer wanting to make a game out of us, making our lives a living nightmare for his own enjoyment. During all of this, the train car's movement is unstable, causing us to fall and pass out right in front of the TV with Sawyer. Fortunately, we wake up in the same train car, successfully traveling to the prison. But now our objective is to escape the prison, with the first thing we see after leaving the train car being a dead Playtime Co. employee pinned up to the wall. Using our grab pack hand inside of a vent to open a door below us, we finally enter a section of this prison. We begin to explore this section and we come across another dead worker. This one has a red grab pack hand on the floor beside him, which is exactly what we need to access another part of the prison. Once we leave the room where we find this, we begin to hear Sawyer's voice from above, narrating our actions and seeing how we do under pressure. We now have to fend off the nightmare critters with the help of our flare gun hand and by closing the doors that they came from. And after a good 45 seconds of this, Sawyer says that he's seen enough and lets us proceed. We finally verify the scanner with our new red grab pack hand and solve a quick puzzle that opens the upper floor to the prison. This floor leads us to another part of the prison, which seems to be some type of main lobby. Forcing our way in, we get a call from Ali, whose words get caught up by a bunch of static, making it near impossible to understand what he's saying. We are barely able to figure out what Ali means, and we now know that we must make our way to a new location. There is something currently wrong and Harley Sawyer is near. Moving through the room on the left, we enter a part of the factory that has a bunch of dead Playtime security guards. At the end of this room is a red key card, which we use in the main lobby in order to open the door to our slight left. Once we go through, we realize that this is yet another cell hall, but it looks a lot more destroyed than the blue one. This one has red smoke lining both sides, indicating that we're still going in the right direction if we're going by the objective Poppy gave to us. Once we enter this room, Harley Sawyer locks it down and starts to dispense red smoke from the ceiling, resulting in us having to find a valve to put back on the red smoke pipes. Once we cut off the flow, we immediately scan the red scanner on the right to avoid passing out from the red smoke. From here, we solve a puzzle that gives us access to a button that completely gets rid of the gas. This gas also breaks open a window on our left, which we move through to get into another section of the factory. After a bit more traversing and puzzle solving, we use both of our grab pack hands to open a large door. Once we enter, the door shuts behind us and we make our way into a new section of the factory, which looks to be some type of checkup or interrogation area. Once we move into one of these rooms, the door shuts behind us again and Sawyer's voice is heard again. He lets us know that he never thought he would see another person like us, an actual human in the flesh. This line shows that Sawyer has been trapped here for a long time, with his interactions only being with toy monsters that were once human. He says that there's something about us that makes us different from everyone else, but he doesn't know exactly what that is. He recalls the toys we've faced in the past, Huggy Wuggy, Mommy Longlegs, and Catnap, but now he wants to test how we'll do against a new toy, Yarnaby the Lion. Once we make our way out of this room, our new objective is to avoid detection from Yarnaby, something that increasingly gets harder due to Yarnaby having a free roam / chasing type of movement. But as we're trying to sneak through what seems to be some type of storage room, Doughy the Dough Man discreetly makes his presence known, as well as making it known that he intends to help us. He drops one of our flare gun pellets onto some boxes, lighting them on fire. This creates a distraction for us, which is exactly what we need to pull ourselves up and away from Yarnaby. But this is barely the beginning of our interactions with Yarnaby, as we're thrown right into another room with Yarnaby on patrol after moving through the vents. After sneaking past him a second time, we make our way to the end of the storage room. But as we're walking, we turn around and see that Yarnaby has finally found us, which results in us having to run past some boxes, through a door, and into another vent. Finally escaping Yarnaby, we enter another section of the factory, which looks to be more of a storage room than anything else, giving vibes similar to the previous room we were in. Moving through this yellow door, we enter a room that looks to be some type of observatory rooftop, as we can see a dark, empty room in the middle of the floor, and just barely out of view, we can see none other than Pianosaurus, just chilling, minding his business. We realize that we're gonna have to pin our back to the wall and shuffle across the ledge that separates us from Pianosaurus. But unfortunately, we lose our footing and fall head first into Pianosaurus's territory. I'm honestly surprised we didn't just break our neck right then and there. At this point, Pianosaurus notices our fall and charges at us, going in for the kill immediately. But at the very last second, a bunch of hands grab and restrain Pianosaurus, banging him across the wall and floor. He then gets pulled back into the darkness, and all we hear is the crushing of metal and plastic. Pieces of Pianosaurus begin to scatter, and the last thing we see of him is his head sliding towards us on the left side. It's none other than Doughy the Dough Man who appears from the darkness with a very friendly tone, assuring the player that he won't eat us too. We get a pretty comical interaction with Doughy before heading off to the right to follow him. As we follow him, he begins to tell us about the interrogation rooms and how the workers would question them after keeping watch for the day. According to Doughy, whenever he was up to be interrogated, he never gave answers that the workers liked. Moving through the rooms, we finally catch up to Doughy, who displays his ability to slip through almost any tight space. He squeezes his way through a yellow gated door, having to pull his arm out due to it being stuck. This minor mess up results in the door breaking just a bit, allowing us to use our grab pack to make our way through. Doughy then shows us that he's genuinely here to help, as he morphs himself into a bridge and then a circular platform to make our journey through the caves a bit easier. During this, he asks if we've seen Poppy anywhere. According to him, Ollie said that she was close by and that Doughy can trust us. Moving from the caves to the tower section, we see Doughy using his body again, slipping through an even smaller space this time. This leaves us with the objective to find a way to open the main door that Doughy just got behind, as for some reason he can't open it himself. Dude could have just pulled his head off, made his face look like a bowling ball, and hit a mean strike. After we figure out how to open the door, we venture inside and we're given the objective to catch up with Doughy. As we're trying to do so, we get yanked back into a small crevice by Kissy Missy, but Kissy looks very injured now, with Poppy right on her shoulder. It makes you wonder what really happened while they were up there, but the reason we were pulled back was because of what was in the room with us. Some large mechanical crab-like entity makes his way past the hall, with me and a lot of fans identifying this thing as the prototype. We start to move deeper into this crevice, avoiding detection from this new entity, as Poppy lets us know that if we go through the showers, we should be able to make it to Safe Haven. This turns out to be exactly right, as Kissy Missy moves through the showers and opens a door that leads us to a very safe looking location. We quickly realize that this is where all the remaining toys reside, at least the ones who are on Poppy's side. Toys like some of the smiling critters, the mini Huggies, and Boogie Bots all reside here. Doughy appears from the back of Safe Haven, confused and asking what's going on. But what's even more confusing is how we were supposed to follow this fat lord of colors, and for some reason he just turned on the burners and booked it. Like, I'm so surprised I didn't hear this man's belly bouncing the whole way there with that kind of speed. Anyway, Poppy exclaims that Kissy Missy needs help as fast as possible. She's injured from the attack, and that may cause problems. Doughy is initially surprised by seeing Poppy, but he locks in and instructs Poppy to take Kissy to one of the beds. He'll see if there's anything still outside of Safe Haven. Poppy says that it's him, likely referring to the prototype, and Doughy almost snaps at this, hearing that one of the most powerful toys in the Playtime Co. factory is just a couple rooms away. He says that they'll talk about this later, and he'll make sure that whatever is out stays out. After hobbling away, because this is not a run, this is a hobble, we get into one of the bed tents with Kissy and Poppy, where Poppy tells us that she didn't expect things to get this bad. She wants to set things right and repeats to us that the orphans were not killed, but taken. They're down in the labs with the prototype, alive and sleeping. And with that, she begins to relay her plan to us. So Poppy wants to rig the red smoke area with explosive charges, which will cause almost a chain reaction type of explosion, since the red smoke ignites when exposed to intense heat. Once we get the orphans out, we set the explosions off, freeing the orphans and destroying the factory. After hearing this plan, we venture off into a cave located in the infirmary that leads us into the sewers. These sewers are what leads us to an elevator. We're faced with another puzzle that needs to be solved in order to access another area. After solving that, we do a bit of venturing and come across a door with a red and blue grab pack scanner. Once we scan it, the door only slightly opens, with the claws of Yarnaby jumping out of the darkness to attack us. We make our way through the door on the left to prevent the chase, and instead of a chase, we have to continue our objective while Yarnaby is on patrol looking for us. And I just want to say that I saw so many YouTubers get this scene and for some reason did not have Yarnaby in it. When I played it, he was there the entire time, and I had to spend over an hour and a half trying to get by him. The gameplay video is in the description if you want to check that out, by the way. But our objective is to redirect the flow of power in order to escape. And after getting to the last door with both grab pack scanners, Yarnaby pops up from behind and prepares us for yet another chase scene. However, this chase scene is what led to the death of Yarnaby, as when we swung over to another section of the room via a chain, I guess Yarnaby just tried to do the same thing, but fortunately, the chain catches Yarnaby by his neck and the hair of his mane, causing him to randomly catch on fire and die. Can anyone explain why this dude burst into flames? This felt so random. After going through this, we make our way into a pod that brings us a bit lower in the factory. We meet up with Doughy soon after, who lets us know that he's been gathering parts for the generator. But right after saying this, an explosion of cold mist blasts in Doughy's direction, freezing him on the spot. We have to redirect the flow of pipes on the ceiling in order to unfreeze Doughy, and once doing so, it's clear that caused him a lot of pain. Doughy confirms this, saying that the doctor is well aware. Events like these are intentional. They're traps to keep Doughy and the others from fulfilling their plans. Venturing further, we run into Sawyer's voice again, who speaks on his curiousness regarding our return to the factory. After this, we move into some type of experimentation room, where we try to use a blue scanner to get into one of the rooms, but suddenly, a pipe on our left blasts some cold mist onto our hand's position, freezing our grab pack hand and keeping it stuck in place. And during this, Sawyer begins to speak again, essentially telling us that the experiments killed everyone, and that Poppy left out some details regarding the Hour of Joy. But for this, I'll just play the full clip.
The experiments killed everyone, including whoever you came back for. You know that by now, yes? Poppy told you her story, of course. Innocence is bliss. And she is oh so innocent. Did she tell you her part in the hour of joy? That she knew it was coming? Or did she leave out that crucial detail? Yes, that wouldn't surprise me. Has she not strung you along, betrayed you, and told you only what you needed to know to do exactly as he asked? You've seen what they do to each other. All they want is violence. Look around. Evidence for it is everywhere. Once they had choice, once they were free, this was their creation.
In order to get out of this situation, we grab a battery located in one of the hatches, use it to power the saw, and use the saw to cut the cord that belongs to the blue grab pack hand that's been here since we walked in. Once cut, we put that blue grab pack hand under our working hand and use the blue scanner to stop the cold mist. This scanner also opens the door that we were initially trying to open, which contains a pod with what looks to be a large pair of lungs. We use the circular battery outside of this room to power the pod, destroying whatever was inside of it. Upon destroying it, we can hear Sawyer reacting to it, almost as if it hurt him. We make our way into another experimentation type of area soon after this, which prompts us to find the toys displayed on the TV in order to reveal their respective numerical codes with the help of our newly acquired gas mask. After aligning said codes with the body diaphragm poster and entering the correct 5-digit code, the red smoke that surrounds this area dissipates, and we make our way up some stairs. These stairs lead us up to another room with a pod containing an organ hooked up to it, using the circular battery outside to power the pod and destroy what's inside. After doing this, we keep exploring and get attacked by a random Tui nightmare critter. I hate this thing. This results in us having to take our gas mask off, indicating that we don't really need it anymore. At some point, we're required to jump across an electric pool of water with the use of our purple grab pack hand. But upon doing so, the hand breaks and we can hear Sawyer laughing in the background soon after. This means that we can't use the platforms on the left and we'll have to swing over to the platform opposite of us with our blue grab pack hand. But instead of one of our hands getting shocked and breaking, Sawyer manipulates the swing to shock our entire body and sends us crashing down below. Here, we have to avoid a slightly larger Baba Chops while inserting batteries into their respective sockets and redirecting the flow of power in order to access another room. The room we gain access to, however, has a pod with Raby Baby inside of it, and Sawyer gives us this speech on how survival necessitates choices, and in order to leave this room, we're gonna have to make a very difficult choice. After this, we make our way to an elevator, which brings us up into a room with another elevator. Once we use that, Harley starts to ask if we hear it like he does, basically just giving us another riddle. Stepping out of the elevator, we're greeted with a wall of monitors on both sides of the room, with a door at the very end. We're given the objective to confront the doctor, and right as we step out the doors, a Sarly Hoyer throws us down a hatch before we can fully take in what we see. Our new location requires us to find the batteries that power the machines that will ultimately lead us out of this, and during this, we have to make sure that the Sarlies don't get to us, and surprisingly, they don't have the mechanic that I theorized, that being them being only able to move when they're not being looked at. But after finding all of the batteries, we make our way back up to where one of the Sarlies threw us down. This is where we discover destroy Sawyer, where we yank the Omni chip that's been keeping him alive out of the system. After this, we use said Omni chip to create our own Omni hand, which contains 4 charges that allows us to access certain parts of the factory. Using this newly acquired grab pack hand on a red scanner, we make our way back to Safe Haven, where Poppy lets us know that now that we have the Omni hand, we can continue with her plan. In the generator room with Doey, Poppy lets us know that now that Sawyer is gone, the prototype will get desperate, which will be our opportunity to strike. Doey interrupts and says that we should talk more about this, but a couple of seconds later, we get a call from Ali. The prototype is right outside of Safe Haven, and Poppy says that Doey needs to distract the prototype and keep him away from here. She also tells us that we'll need to fix the generator, instructing Ali to guide us through it. After we fix it with Ali's help, we get these lines of dialogue.
It's done. We did it. Good.
Poppy comes back in the room and thanks us for fixing the generator, also saying that she hasn't heard from Doey, but after reassuring herself, we're instructed to reach the foundation in order to plant the explosives. Once we reach the foundation and do exactly as instructed, we're told to escape, and we end up running into a very distressed Doey. He says that he lost track of the prototype and asks if we've seen him. Clearly stressed out, he begins to try and reassure himself that he led the prototype away and that the generator's perfectly fine. However, right after saying this, a huge explosion happens, and it was in the direction of where Safe Haven was. Doey, clearly shocked by this, slips his way through a small pipe, checking to see if Safe Haven is okay. We make our way back to Safe Haven as well, but as we're going through the infirmary, we quickly realize that something horrible has happened. The toys that once resided in this little area are now dead, and once we fully enter Safe Haven, we see Doey standing over a dead Bobby Bear Hug, apologizing for not being able to protect her or any of the other toys. But this apology slowly switches to self-blame, with Doey saying that he was only made to hurt. This feeling of grief then takes on a new form, anger. Doey expresses his hurt, now wanting everyone else to feel the exact same pain he's currently feeling. But his emotions are scattered, almost as if multiple people inside of him are reacting to what's going on, responses switching between them. These violent emotions cause the already unstable Safe Haven to crush Doey, getting buried alive by a bunch of rubble. But this is not where Doey dies. The final emotion we see from him regarding this scene is pure, unfiltered hatred, and this new, chaotic, and grotesque form is a reflection of that. Now blinded with rage and the urge to kill, we get chased by Doey, which forces us to escape to the small yellow elevator. This elevator leads us to a zip line, which seems to create a lot of distance between us and Doey. However, Doey is right on our tail, and we have to keep running. After clearing some gaps and squeezing through some tight spaces, we manage to lose Doey, for now at least. After sliding down a conveyor belt using a red grab pack scanner, we enter an excavation site, the final battleground for the battle against Doey the Dough Man. We're required to use the cold mist capsules to freeze Doey while he's under one of the saws laid out across the map. After doing so, it seems like we've successfully killed Doey, but after trying to leave through a door that requires both grab packs, Doey grabs us from behind and holds us high in the air, saying that everything is all our fault and how he wants to destroy everything. However, we notice a cold mist capsule on the left side, which prompts us to use our flare gun hand to temporarily freeze and slow Doey and have him let us go. This little opportunity allows us to pull the large machine from above right down onto him. Doey does resist our attempt to finish him off, but only for a little while, as the machine begins to spin rapidly right on top of Doey, tearing him to shreds. But right before dying, he apologizes to us, aware of the fact that everything that just happened was out of emotion, and he truly didn't want things to end like this. We leave through the door we're trying to get through, with our new objective being to search for survivors. Searching through the factory, the two survivors we find are none other than Kissy Missy and Poppy, and they seem to be hiding in some type of trash pit. This is later revealed to be a ventilation unit, but the first thing we hear when dropping down here is Poppy trying to get a response from Ollie, with no luck. After seeing us down here, she asks what we did and why we killed Doey, clearly doubting our judgment. She tries again to get a response from Ollie with no success, but then the phone starts to ring. Poppy immediately answers and tries to tell the situation, but gets cut off by
Ollie! Something's gone horribly wrong. The safe haven...
Shelf ventilation block B6. Is this where you are, Poppy?
What?
Stay where you are.
And listen closely. You're not going to run. You're not going to fight. The charade is over.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is where I start yelling at the top of my lungs about how my Ollie prototype theory was right on the nose. But I'm gonna refrain for this video. The prototype informs us that he took the explosives from the spot that we put them, which was the foundation, and discreetly relocated them into safe haven. Poppy begins to break down after hearing all of this, and the prototype says that she must come home, referring to the case that we freed her from. Poppy gets terrified and does not want to go back in her case, so she ends up running off, leaving us and Kissy Missy to fend for ourselves. Kissy Missy sees this, and you can tell she is extremely hurt by it. The prototype mentions how good of a friend she is and how we shouldn't worry. He'll find her. But while he switches to talk about his intentions with us, a beeping noise grows more and more apparent. This beeping noise turns out to be a bomb planted right beneath us. And before it explodes, Kissy Missy instinctually runs to us to make sure we don't fall. She grabs us with her injured arm, which results in the arm getting completely teared off and us falling deeper into the factory, now completely alone. We do a bit of venturing and find what seems to be a little greenhouse containing heaps of poppy flowers. This is likely where the red smoke originated from, and as we make our way to the end of this, we enter a small room with a VHS tape for us to use. We insert the tape into the tape recorder, and we're greeted with a message by Leith Pierre. This message pretty much lets us know that since we're down here and we aren't supposed to be, we're going to die. But I'll let the ending play for itself.
You're not supposed to be here. This is the single most high security, high clearance section of the whole factory. When someone finds you down here, you will be shot. And before you get any ideas, don't think you can just sneak away either. No, the second you put this tape in, it set off an alarm. So if anyone's home, they know exactly where you are. Pretty nifty, huh? Security is very important to us here. If I were you, I'd start running.
And with that, the chapter ends. Somehow, some way, Huggy Wuggy is still alive. But what do you guys think about this chapter? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.